Giant rock, for the last 10 years, has been the Plymouth Rock of the saucer age. Saucer conventions were meeting here as far back as the pre-astronaut era of black and white television.
Okay, we're in Landers, California. We're outside the Integratron. This is the plaque outside the property. And this is the Integratron.
Check this out. This is like one of the coolest, freakiest, vibiest structures I've ever been in. It's called the Integratron. There's this big ocular thing in the center. I mean,
and this place was built in the 50s by a guy that was visited supposedly by aliens from Venus. The Venetians came down and explained to him how to build this place that we call the Integratron.
We're riding on an electrostatic magnetic ship right now on the Earth, doing 66,000 miles an hour right now in an orbit around the sun, and we're all astronauts in that respect.
There's what's known as the Giant Rock.
I'm checking out this giant rock.
giant rock.
Like, this rock is so big.
And this rock has been the focal point for Native American communities and UFO enthusiasts. And there was a man who actually lived underneath this rock, and he blew himself up. Now, Kitzer was a loner. He didn't live with anyone.
He had come to our country, worked in our merchant marine, and was a naturalized citizen.
Kitzer built an apartment underneath the rock, and he used dynamite to blow it out. He had a ventilation shaft for air, he had a rainwater collection system, really engineered it nicely to be able to live underneath a boulder.
He didn't own the property, for it was government land. By digging under the rock, he could have a place to live without having to purchase materials to amount to anything.
We are here as beings of light, benevolent, invested in humanity and her evolution.
This is his apartment down here, or what's left of it. Kitzer eventually became under investigation by the FBI around the time that the U.S. entered into World War II.
Frank was falsely accused of stealing dynamite, failing to register for the draft, and several other things in 1942. The only radio Frank Kitzer had was one that Charlie Carell had given him. And without first checking with the FBI, these people started the rumor that Frank surely must be a spy.
Now, the authorities thought that he could potentially be a German spy because he had an interest in shortwave radio, and he lived out here by himself. There's actually kind of a mystery around what exactly happened, but Kitzer blew himself up.
According to Bill Royal, who had brought the deputies out here, as they didn't even know where Giant Rock was, Frank, after a lot of arguing, said that if they were going to take him in anyway, that he needed to get his coat. When he went into his living quarters beneath Giant Rock to get his coat, he pulled the 2x4 bars, which he had across the door on the inside to hold it in place, and thus barricaded the door. The deputies immediately assumed Frank was defying them, so they lobbed a tear gas grenade in through the north side window. The unfortunate part of this whole incident was that the grenade landed underneath that table, thus setting off the caps and dynamite. The explosion killed Frank Kitzer, blew the windows out, and injured the deputies. I had personally talked with the FBI. They knew the newspaper stories were not true.
And that's where George Van Tassel comes into the story. He was an acquaintance of Kitzer's and used to come out here. And he felt something strange when he was around the Giant Rock. So after Kitzer's death, he leased the land to be able to operate the airport from the Bureau of Land Management.
I'm a time machine plan. You have done experiments which show you can bring the past to life.
Have you ever gone up close enough to touch one to see what was inside?
Bill, in August the 24th of 1953, I went aboard one for about 20 minutes. Jack, the formula came from a ship that landed at my airport in 1953 on August the 24th, which had 4 people aboard it that came from another planet. Well, this thing is very similar to a thing that's happened in our biblical records where a Lord presented Moses with a pattern to build a tabernacle. They came out of the sky, they handed him stone tablets, and this phenomena that's taking place today is as old as our history, as our civilization. This isn't anything new that's occurring, it's something that's being continued in another time of crisis when conditions affecting the people of this planet are reaching a point where somebody has to take
But then he died suddenly. And when he died, he lost the plans to the Integratron because they were all in his head.
Big rocks, man, big rocks. You got big cocks.
Hello, you two people. We're here at Big Rock.